thank you everybody for coming tonight. This is very, very exciting. And from where I'm standing, I gotta tell you, we got beautiful people in a beautiful building to celebrate a building that's gonna be beautiful again. We couldn't be in a better place. My name is Jerry Goldberg, and I'm the guy from across the street at the Chamber of Commerce. I spend a lot of time behind microphones these days, so this is kind of fun. Isn't the transformation in this room tonight extraordinary? I have never seen this building look better than it looks tonight. This preview, if you will, of what the Brooks House is going to promise us going forward is just fabulous. And it's the work of a lot of people to pull it off. I'd like to thank and acknowledge those folks right now, and hold your applause. I'm going to call some names, and if they're around and they want to wave and just show us who they are, that's fine. There's a group of folks that alphabetically will start with Betty Abrams, and we'll move on to Karen Abel, Priscilla Cotton, Mark Malloy, and Tim Matheson. They all did great stuff. They did flowers, they did lighting, they set up the furniture, they made the little vignettes around the room, and they've just done a fabulous job. So please, let's give them all, Team Decor, a hand. And while we're giving hands, few deserve it more than she who opened up the treasure trove that is A Candle in the Night. So we have some terrific furniture here. Let's all give Donna Simons a hand for her contribution to this. You know, we hear a lot of talk lately about bright young professionals, don't we? And the wisdom of having them at the table and giving them voice. They're the ones among us who will shape our beloved Brattleboro future. It may come as a surprise to some of you that I'm no longer in this category. I know it's hard to believe. But let me tell you, I've been around long enough. I know them when I see them. And the Brooks House Development Group are the real deal. I can't think of five more perfect exemplaries of this. Any town would be delighted to have folks like Bob Stevens, Craig Miskovich, Ben Taggart, and Peter and Drew Richards, forward-thinking, generous of time and energy, risk-taking, and motivated by a love of community. Let's do it. They're all here tonight. Representing them this evening, however, at this lectern is Bob Stevens of Stevens & Associates. Bob, as you know, has been a major contributor to the Brattleboro scene since 1990. Well, you've been around longer than that, but you know. He's offered services in architecture, civil engineering, structural engineering, landscape architecture, and planning. All you have to do is check out the Cutler Block right down on Main Street. That's where the Stevens & Associates offices are, to see the level of quality that this man creates and insists on. I understand Bob was on the scene at the Brooks House the minute the firefighters said it was okay for him to go in. So he knows the building like no one else does. Who better to oversee the rising of our iconic Brooks House? Ladies and gentlemen, I give you one of my local heroes, Bob Stevens.
Jerry's embarrassing me. That's thank you very much, Jerry, and more than was deserved, I think. I want to say, myself on behalf of my partners on the Brooks House, thank you all for coming out tonight. You know, this, I'm not sure we know what we were getting involved with. It was almost a year ago that we sort of came to an agreement to say we're going to take this on and find a way to make this project happen. And clearly we didn't know what we were doing, but once we got our feet into this, we've hung in there. There's been some sort of tough moments in the last almost year, but we're there now, and we're actually, I think, going to make it. And the reason why we sort of stuck with it was really because of this kind of support. The community, family, friends, the state, the town, universally have been behind us from day one, and that's the reason that we've stuck it out and found a way to make this thing happen. And clearly, we're at a point now where we can say we are going forward. This is going to happen. And thank you for coming out tonight, because what we hope to do, we have some vignettes. We also want to give people an idea of where the project sits and some sense of the energy and the kind of place this is going to be. So with that, maybe we can run through a few slides here, and I'll give me something to talk about. So again, some iconic, as Jerry said, iconic building. This is really the nicest building in this town, in my opinion. It sits on the most prominent corner. And the guy who built this, Brooks, he did it as partly civically motivated. I go back to, he made his money out west. He came back here. He wanted to build a hotel that would be an income generator for his hometown to bring tourists up from down south. That was the reason that this hotel was built, and the reason that he went far beyond to make it a very special place. At its time, it was the largest hotel in the country and the most grand hotel at its time. Surpassed at some point, but there you go. Next slide. We probably all know this slide. We don't need to talk about this. 2 years ago, next month, we worried for a while whether it was going to come back together and how it was going to come back together. So we spent the year with the current owner, with John Chase, trying to figure out how to put it back together. A lot of good work, a lot of work to stabilize it, to get it buttoned up to where it sits today. Now we need to bring it the rest of the way. So, next slide. Very quickly, building looks the same. I do want to point out the storefronts. We're hoping that by the time we're done, this building goes back to its original look, sort of historic look on the front. We didn't bring the porch or the balconies back, but the columns and the sign bands and the storefronts and the recessed entries, all of those were a much sort of classic and nicer look, and we want to bring that uniform look back to the face of the building when we finish this renovation. Next slide. High Street, actually High Street in the 70s had some movements done. It's an entirely different looking building out there on the ground floor. But again, we're going to be making some changes to try to bring that back to what the building looked like historically. The rear of the building, the first floor of that is existing. The second floor is new space for Vermont Technical College, and this is probably a good opportunity to talk about the first win that we had, last fall that started this becoming a reality. The state colleges, first the governor stepped up, suggested the idea. The state colleges all worked with us to sort of move that along. I think Martha is here tonight and Dan Smith is here tonight to speak a little bit. I'm not sure where in the program that's coming in, but you want to do that now? Shall we? Martha, why don't you come right up? But again, I would say from the standpoint of the developers of this project, we could not have done this without the colleges. We need their support to first occupy the building, to energize the building, and quite frankly to get our lending, because the lenders would not give us the money without that.
Thank you, Bob. The state colleges could not be happier to be moving from where we are to downtown Brattleboro. This is one of the most exciting things I think the trustees have gotten involved in, and everyone is thrilled. So I thank you, Bob. I thank the group. My God, this is tremendous. And we're hoping to move 2 colleges on Main Street in 2014. That's the expectation. We're ready to go, and the state colleges have pledged that in 2014 we will have the first state college board meeting here in Brattleboro. It's never happened, but it's going to happen. I would like to introduce people that are here tonight. Dan Smith, who is the Director of Community Relations and Public Policy. Dan, where are you? Dan is here. Thank you. Cliff LaPlante, who is the Site Manager for Vermont Tech here in Brattleboro. Cliff, thank you. And Tat Barnhill, who is the Executive Director of Academic Centers for CCV, is here, and I think she has some others with her. Thank you. They will be here for the evening, and if you've got questions of them, but we are thrilled. This is a wonderful moment for Brattleboro and for the group, so thank you.
Thank you, Martha. And again, think got a downtown now with 150 students here every day in and out of this building and supporting shops and restaurants downtown. The Harmony Lot, which is what we're sitting and looking at here, the colleges will be the first floor, taking all of that space on the first floor and the new second floor, and really most of the rest of the second floor on the building. So they'll have a large presence in the building and a large presence downtown. So not only do we get the activity in the building, we get the ability to hopefully raise their profile in the community and hopefully educate more people and continue to work on our workforce. So it's a great win-win for us. Next slide. This is a view of, you probably saw this on the wall, of the new atrium. So we have some old spaces, we have some new spaces. When we get to the floor plans, I'll show you how this fits into the matrix, but this is actually the outside space in the vicinity of where you go into that little back area to go to the mole's eye. We're going to take down a wall, we're going to go in and put a 2-story space in. It's a new sort of public space. It's the heart of this building. Food will be around the edges of it. You'll be able to get into all the retail spaces from this space. You'll be able to get to the main lobby, which will bring you up to the residential space from this. And we think it's going to be an exciting and sort of vibrant, live community area as part of this building. And this is the first floor plan. So everybody's been in the building, I'm sure. It is different than what it used to be. Do we have a pointer? No. Okay. The yellow is the circulation. So what I'm going to point out here, the main entrance of the building is now going to be in what used to be the main entrance for Adagio's. That is the historic entrance to the hotel. You used to go in there, into the back. There was a couple of cast iron columns, and that's where the reception desk was and where you'd leave staircases to go upstairs. Now it's going to be the main entrance again, a very formal front lobby. We're going to take part of the ceiling out, put in a stair to the second floor, kind of open that area up. The elevator, reception will all be in that first lobby. And then when you get through these glass doors and those columns, that's the atrium area in the center that you just saw an image of. And that sort of becomes the hub. The pink-colored stores are all restaurants, so we're looking to get a sort of takeout counter lunch cafe place on the left, and then this is the corner restaurant which Duo of Denver is going to be occupied. And I think we have some stuff from Duo. Maybe now would be a good time to play that. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question, Bob. Why don't you explain where these people are going to park? 150 people.
The students. Actually, that's a good question, and the town is so thankful that the college is coming to town because their public parking system's running at about 70% occupied, and it needs to be at about 90% for them to do what they need to do with their parking system. So the parking garage, the High Grove lot, the public parking system, the town has about 1,000 spaces. And a lot of that was added on, if you remember back when the parking garage came in, and then we lost about 200 workers to downtown with some businesses moving out of town. I would hazard to guess the date, but I've lost it now. So they'll be using the public system and hopefully bringing that up to capacity, actually. You want to play? We'll come back.
I think that the building speaks for itself. When you're on Main Street looking at the beautiful building, it has such an incredible history of success that I think that that's really important to continue to build on that. My name is Stephanie Bonin, and my husband and I are opening Duo Restaurant in the Brooks House. It was a freezing cold day, and we were going through the different spaces at the Brooks House, and we just looked at each other when we got into the corner space and saw the brick that was there, the exposed brick that we want to keep. We saw the beautiful windows from the inside and could see Main Street. And no matter how cheesy it sounds, a picture flashed in front of me, and it was really clear that day that this is where we wanted to be and what we wanted to be doing. I think there are a lot of things that go into your decision making on where to open up a business. What is the population and how much are they going to support you? Because it's a symbiotic relationship. If you give them something they need, are they then in return going to need you back? And so what is very clear is Brattleboro wants to continue to have a thriving downtown. And that thriving downtown needs beautiful retail and restaurants to entice people in to walk up and down Main Street. And so being in the middle of a thriving town will guarantee you both of those audiences. Businesses are as good as their neighbors are, right? We're all, the Brooks House is sort of one being, and so we're all going to feed off of each other. For us, the models that we've seen and the discussions that we have had with Stevens and Associates is assuring us that what they're going to give us is a beautiful blank slate or a beautiful blank canvas. We as creative people thrive on being creative, and so I think that it is just yet another time in Brattleboro's history where recreation is happening.
I can't tell you how thrilled we are to have Stephanie and Keith as tenants in this building, and the energy and excitement and success. I mean, they have 3 very successful restaurants in Denver, and they're going to bring that expertise back here for us in this town, and they're going to be taking the most prominent corner and the most sort of exciting retail space in our town. So that's, again, a huge win, we feel, for moving this thing forward. So this, go back to this floor space. As I mentioned before in the back, that tan color is where the college, the yellow is the mall area, and there's a new circulation corridor that brings you to the far corner of the Harmony lot back here. So there are several different ways you get in and out of the building, always have. We've just sort of cleaned that up, made it a little more exciting. We now have storefronts on both sides. These stores have storefronts here and storefronts back here, a public corridor to sort of, this is all glass that opens up into the mall area to keep that active. So we think it's going to be a very exciting and vibrant and energetic space when we're done. To say nothing about the level of renovation that's happening in the building. The envelope on this, this has been, it's an old building, like all of our buildings are downtown. They leak. They cost a fortune to heat. Things wear out. You don't ask for a fire, but after a fire, you start over. We got nothing left in that building but the walls. So we're going to be starting brand new with all systems, mechanical, electrical, envelope. It's going to be a very efficient, state-of-the-art, high-performance building, and still be an old, iconic building for our community. So it should be a great place to be. Second floor, this is all college up on the new addition on the back across Main Street. You can see that open stairwell in the center that comes up. And then this space over here, we have, we actually have some folks interested in that, although we're still working on some of the paperwork. I think many of you have seen or heard us talk about the old ballroom. So this is right now a very large open space with 19-foot high ceilings and tin ceilings at the top, and used to be a civic sort of gathering area for this town in its day. It was the formal dining room for the hotel, and it was an event space, one of many in this town that no longer gets used. So we are trying to firm up and finalize some of that space, which is still available for leasing. Go to the next floor. Now we're into the residential, 3rd, 4th, and 5th floor. And on the residential storefront, or front, we're really trying to do something a little different in the downtown. We're looking and leasing spaces for a higher quality of apartment buildings. So we have 23 apartments in the building now. Before the fire, there were 60 very tiny apartments. Now we have 23 apartments that are all, there's some 1-bedroom, 2-bedrooms, and a few 3-bedroom units. But they're all nice units with islands and kitchens and nice, materials and well sort of soundproofed and washer and dryers in the units. So again, so far, we have 23 units. I think we have 4 or 5 left that are not income eligible units, and about 4 that are income restricted units left. So we've got 8 or 9 units left of the 3 floors. Again, there's some really special units. The corner units, which are being opened up into multiple units. If you go to the next slide. On the 4th and 5th floor, Many of you have seen the tower. This is a 2-bedroom unit that goes up into the tower. And then these two in the front are 2 penthouse units. You go in on the 4th floor, up a set of stairs to another 1,000 to 1,300 square feet on the 5th floor, which you're quite high at that point, looking above this side of Main Street to the river and the mountains. So there's the tower, the central tower, the 2 penthouse units. These units on the ends, the High Street and Main Street units, also have sort of a tower that we're going to open up the ceiling and bring in some natural light up top. So some really special spaces throughout this. So again, part of the reason for this event was to let people know that what was happening, what the project was going to look like. The other reason was to say that if you have any interest in the building, now is the time. We only have a few residential units left, 4 or 5 retail units left, and we also have our lender back there that says we need to lease a few more space before they'll give us the money. So we do need that. If you have interest, there's the 5 of us will be walking around. There's some tables. We're just trying to get people's names tonight of interest, and we'll get back to you. Anything else in slides? That's it. Okay. I didn't mention there is some parking available for residences out back as well. And we are trying to upgrade the Harmony lot. There's a section that this building owns. We are making some investments in the area around the building and out back to try to improve the pedestrian area and sort of clean up the parking lot out back. Any questions? Yes.
Now, Martha mentioned the colleges in 2014.
Yeah.
Is that January session, summer session, September?
2014 is a long year. No, the intent is our schedule, and we actually believe this now. We're going to close the end of April and start construction in May. We have, because of the complex funding that we have, we will be ready to start construction as soon as we buy the building, and we have a year's schedule to complete the construction. So by next year from this summer, this building will be open and people will be moving in. Any other questions before I hand the mic back? Yes?
Any outdoor spaces for people to gather?
Thanks. Yeah, I didn't mention that. There are, for residences, there's a few, the penthouses in the tower that actually have their own decks up on the roof, but there is a deck on top of the 2-story addition on the back for all the other residences in the building. So we have an outside space, I haven't fully designed it yet, but on the roof you'll be able to go down the hallway and get out to a private residential area. And then the outside, the ground around the building in the back, we are going to go as far as we can to sort of create a high-quality public outside space and build on the colleges and what's happening in Bass Building across the way with those retail stores on the bottom, which are really very nice, and try to improve the quality of that public space as well. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to turn it back to Jerry. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Bob. I could listen to Bob talk about this building and this project all day long. I guess maybe because there's something about the Brooks House or the Hotel Brooks that kind of gets to you. The day Craig Miskovich and Bob Stevens announced the formation of Mesabi, they took a photo right on the corner here, right in front of the tower, with that big chamber banner that we hung up there, Brooks House Rising. And that day that we did all that announcement and hung the banner, Craig came into the chamber, Greg and I were in, and he was on cloud nine. I've never seen anybody so happy, so delighted, and so thrilled as he was. His commitment was absolutely infectious, so much so that without missing a beat, I ran out into the street. I remember, Craig, you were already outside. I ran out into the street and I said, wait, what do I have to do to get an apartment there? Literally, it's anything. I would have written a check that day of monumental amount, I want you to know. But he said, we're just at the beginning of the financing, Derry. So the very day the official word went out that the apartments would become available and the floor plans were published, Donald and I looked at the floor plans and we picked one out. And 1,100 square feet of urban heaven. I couldn't wait for urban heaven again. And we signed on the dotted line. We didn't see anything. We had no idea what the building looked like. We just knew that that's where we wanted to be. So, you know, as much as we want to have the younger urban professionals downtown, some of us older folk who really kind of like given up the house, you know, want a little bit of ease of living, if you will. Think about it. I know there aren't that many apartments left, but, you know, this is what was on our minds. We really wanted to be here, and this is where we're going to stay. So thank you, Bob, and Craig, and Ben, and Peter and Drew, for extending the opportunity to Donald and me to live in a living legend, the Brooks House in downtown Brattleboro. We're excited to meet our new neighbors, the folks next door, and surely the shopkeepers on the main street. God, we've got to get them in those stores fast. You know, I'll even delay moving into my apartment if you just get those stores operating, and I'll be happy at the chamber. We're also excited about the prospect of having the schools. All the energy that those young people and faculty will bring to this downtown will be just extraordinary. Okay, enough from me. If you think I'm jazzed by this building and its renaissance, well, I've met my match. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to that force of nature we know of as the one and only Mara Williams Oakes.
I had really thought to take the Booster Club President Award, but I think Jerry may have taken it away from me. It's all been said tonight by Jerry or by Bob Stevens, but I want to reiterate. The most important adaptation of a historic building is about to take place in downtown Brattleboro. It is a game changer for our community. For those of us who pay attention to BDCC and other organizations who have seen to the financial health and community of Brattleboro for now over 50 years, you know that we have some demographics trending against us. But this particular team puts those demographics squarely back into a place that we all want to live, and squarely back where it needs to be an old person in this town. So the building is beautiful. It is exactly what we need in this town in terms of the residential quality. I never lived in Brattleboro as director of the museum because there wasn't an apartment that was fit to live in, according to me. And now I just wish I hadn't built a new house. So I'm going to amortize that investment before I come downtown to the Brooks House. Anything we can do as concerned citizens to get friends and relatives, business people we know in other communities, to come to Brattleboro and make the kind of investment that these young people, Bob may not be as young as these other people, because he came to town 6 months after I did. I don't consider myself young anymore. But I do know that an investment like this is going to take practically a generation to pay off. And if these gentlemen and Bob are willing to put their financial futures on the line, we need to step up to the plate and become ambassadors for the Brooks House. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. We just want to take a few minutes finally here, ladies and gentlemen, to thank again all the people that put this wonderful event on. Let me go through the list and hold your applause until the end, but a rousing applause it will be. Team Decor is Karen Abel, Betty Abrams, Priscilla Cotton, Tim Matheson, Mark Malloy, and of course Donna Simons. Caitlin Wilkinson, folks, in the Renaissance Fine Jewelry Building, who allowed her roof to be used to station lighting on, so the Brooks House, at least for tonight, I hope maybe longer, will finally have some light on it. Where were you guys at Christmas? Cheese. Grafton Cheese for reminding us how good Vermont cheese is. Blue Moose for Ken's fabulous hors d'oeuvres. Wyndham Wines. Stephanie Bonin of Duo, you saw her a few minutes ago. And if you haven't had those macaroons, I suggest you leap on them immediately. The Brooks House Development Group, again, Bob, Craig, Ben, Peter, and Drew, and the Stevens team, Allison and Jane, for putting on this spectacular event. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, for making the brilliant decision to ask this indefatigable and incomparable lady to pull this event together. Come on up here and give your applause. Lynn Barrett. No, she doesn't want to come up. Okay. Lynn Barrett, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. And party on. There's a lot to see and talk about.